Wait for it. Wait for it, and we're live. Hooray!
All right.
We're the
All right.
livest podcast on this side of the internet. The other side of the internet, you might find something, but not this side. So, welcome everybody to our pre-show, which is the part of the show where I am tweeting about the fact that we are live, and then we have like 2 minutes of exclusive content before I start the audio version, which is just missing this, me waffling about the stuff I just talked about and stuff. So, yeah. Alright, live now. Yay.
We're live once more.
There,
episode 94.
Yes, we are. Wow, that rhymes. It's like you did that on purpose or something. Insanity. And Chris is on camera again, so hooray. I'm noticing we have that. I'm going to adjust the stream just a little bit. Bear with me here. I'm still not very good at setting up everything when I should. There we go. Boy.
So everything in this game works okay, except for the volume controls, apparently.
That's awful silly. Why does it do that? I think I'm tweaking the wrong thing. That's what I meant to tweak. Okay. But that's okay. I might have screwed up the video that I'm taking for the audio version, which is a strange thing to say, but I record a video and then I extract the audio from that. So anyway, although I haven't started recording that part yet, so shall we get to it? And we are now live on YouTube, so yeah. We will get to the actual podcast part. Chris, are you ready with your beer?
Yes, I am.
Also, it says we have a special guest at the bottom of the screen, but he hasn't showed up yet. So, Dan, if you're in the live audience, join the Discord, you bastard. Anyway. So, ready with the beer for our incredible theme song? Ah, shit, I forgot my bagpipes. Hold on. I need that for the theme song. That's one of our new shticks that I invented on the last week that we had a podcast that you weren't there for. So, I didn't tell you about that. But we have more bagpipes on the show now. Hold on. Chris, tell the audience stuff about what game you're playing.
So this is Going Under, and I am playing the, Working From Home update, which is, appropriate for this year. Unfortunately, these guys said that the game wasn't financially viable to do any more free updates for, but I think the game is plenty of fun and totally worth it as is. Despite how much I'm sucking at it at the moment.
Nice. Alright, got my bagpipes. Almost forgot that. That would have been terrible. Okay, anyways, now I didn't get my bagpipes. Hey, is that... Somebody else has joined the Discord.
That is somebody else. Who is that?
That's Daniel.
Hey, look.
Hi, Daniel.
Dan! And now I have to adjust the stream because it's changing on the fly. Yeah, there we go. Why won't this go down? Okay. Well, you're not going to get Dan's entire face because OBS won't let me change it. Oh, there's Dan. Hey, he's got a webcam and everything. Except now it's cutting off the bottom half of Chris's head. What the hell's up with that?
You don't need to see the bottom half of my head.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So, welcome, Dan. So,
Thank you.
Do you have a beer, Dan?
I have kombucha.
Oh.
It's got less than 5% alcohol by volume.
That sounds...
Alternately, I did buy like half a dozen different ginger ale, root beer, ginger beer variations.
Ales and beers,
so
does that count?
I can keep up with you, theoretically.
Right. I mean, I'm drinking an 11% here, plus however much whiskey I put in whatever this is. So you could probably keep up with me on that, on your lightweight stuff, so that's fine. Anywho, we are currently in the pre-show live on YouTube, which is the part of the show where I start us live on YouTube before I start recording the audio version. So it's very limited, exclusive live content. And this time we've almost gone up to 5 minutes of live content that is exclusive to the YouTube version. So tell all those audio version people that they're missing out or something. Anyways, we're about to record. So if you have a beer or something in hand, we do a countdown and then we open it, and that's our theme song. Is the sound of beer opening. So... All right, you ready, guys?
I'm ready.
Yes, I've got ginger beer is going to be my first beer of them.
Okay, I'm still not sure why I can't stretch this in order to make the lower half of Chris's head visible. Anyways, we apologize for the technical inconvenience. I suck at this. It's all my fault.
I would drink, but my beer's not open yet.
Okay, right. Yeah, we'll drink as soon as the beers are open. So 3, 2, 1. Hello, Internet. My name is Spamoman, as always, your host of Drink to the Past, the only podcast on the Internet where I forgot to update the ubiquitous opening monologue again. I think I used that joke the last time I forgot to update the ubiquitous opening monologue again, so we already have to drink. And we have to drink because of something that happened in the pre-show. This is somewhat harsh. So Sean Drinks Something Stupid this week is, I got logged on to Discord with Chris and I was like, oh crap, I forgot to make a cocktail this week. So I ran to the fridge to see what I had. And apparently my wife bought some kind of chai thing. So I dumped some in a glass with some whiskey because back in the day, I used to drink chai spritzers, which was like basically that plus like some sparkling water or something, and I had some tonic water, but I thought that would like screw up the flavor, so I didn't do that. But maybe I would do that next time, because it's kind of spicy with just the straight chai pretty much, and then the extra burn from the whiskey is just like, look at me, I'm gonna punch you all in the back of the throat. And, of course, I am joined, as always, by my co-host and/or guests, which this week we actually have the guy who designed the Cooler Drink to the Past logo, which I have shown on the podcast a handful of times. This is my brother, Dan. He's waving to you if you're on the audio version. And, of course, my good old co-host, Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris. I swear I'm not actually that terrible at this game, Audette.
Are you?
Well, I mean,
He will swear to it.
I'm dying on the first level of dungeons that I've beaten in one try before, so
Nice.
if that tells you anything.
It tells me that you're terrible at this game, apparently. All right,
no.
So Sean
The
Drinks Something
opposite of what I
Stupid
want
is
people to think.
not exactly my favorite thing I've ever had. It's not awful. I like chai fine, so it's like, okay. I feel like this is totally going to screw up my beer of the week, though. I have a really cool beer of the week. So actually, on Sunday, I went out to a very small invite-only beer tasting that a buddy of mine had an extra seat reserved for at Burns Family Artisan Ales. And the guy that is the head brewer there is a really cool dude, and he was telling us at the tasting that he's been like barrel aging beers since before it was cool. Back in the 80s, he was doing different kinds of barrel aged beers before really anybody had really taken notice of that. Of any important brewery. There was like a handful of breweries that would occasionally do it and stuff like that. So it was very interesting content and kind of learning about the history of barrel aging and what's all been happening with that in the craft beer scene, which is kind of interesting because like now where I am, barrel-aged beers have got a large uptick in popularity recently, but like as long as I can remember, barrel-aged beers have been a thing because they've been a thing as long as I've been drinking because I am much younger than that guy. No offense to him, he's a cool dude. But yeah, so this one is called the Thoughts of Winter, which is a barrel-aged white stout, barrel-aged in Chardonnay barrels. So that's interesting. Stout is not normally quite this light. So this is actually darker than the last white stout I had, which I think, Chris, were you at my house the last time we had a white stout when I had that dragon's milk stuff?
I cannot remember. Okay, I was probably at your house when we last had a white stout.
That was how long that was ago. It was, before there was all this pandemic and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I was there because I remember us having a conversation about stouts, and technically you can have a stout that it doesn't have to be dark even remotely. It refers to the alcohol content in the original context more than it does to the, the burnt flavor. I like my burnt flavor. Give me my stout. But
I'll drink to that. So, yeah. So I'm not particularly fond of this chai thing. It could use something else in it. Like, maybe if I had, like, put this in a latte or something, then that would have been good with the whiskey and the, like, an Irish chai latte.
I wonder if they have a chai kombucha, because kombucha is just fermented tea. And so if you fermented a chai tea and made a chai kombucha, I wonder if that would be any good.
Could be. We had me and my wife had some hard kombucha the other day when we went to the liquor store, and April had heard about it and asked the guy, and he said, we have this kind. We don't have the kind, because she had heard of one called kombucha, which is a good play on words there. But he was like, we don't have that, but we got these ones, and they were okay. I don't know. I've never, like, delved into kombucha, so I'm not sure what it's supposed to taste like, but it wasn't, like, terrible, but it wasn't totally my jam. I was more of a fan of the stout we got that day, because I'm a stout guy. Yeah. So, anywho, what do you rate that there, whatever you're drinking, Mr. Top Half of Chris's Head?
Well, it's a Denver Beer Co. Pretzel Assassin. Let me see if I can get that high enough
That's
in the
not a bad
webcam
one.
for people to see.
Yeah. I've had that one. I'm not sure if I've had it on the podcast, but I've had that one plenty of times. It's a relatively popular one. Nice, easy drinking stuff. It would really go well with pretzels.
Not usually too much of a lager guy, but this is pretty tasty, I'd say.
Yeah. What do you rate that on a scale of 3 to 17?
I'd give it at least a 13.
It's actually growing on me a little bit. Maybe all the whiskey was floating at the top or something. I'm not sure. I didn't stir it. I just kind of dumped it because I was just like, oh God, we gotta be live now. So now that's a little better. But still not like amazing. I'm gonna give it an 8. It's like a little less than average. It's fine, but it needs something else to really make it shine. Dan, what do you rate that kombucha on a scale of 3 to 17?
Well, if you like kombucha, it's definitely a kombucha, so it qualifies for the scale. Nice. Beyond that, this one is a pineapple peach kombucha. Fancy. So personally, I'm more fond of like the fruitier teas rather than the more leafy teas. I'm not very good at describing it, so I would personally rate this about a 13 as well.
All right.
I've been faking my way through beer descriptions for the entirety of this podcast.
Nice.
So,
and you've only now just told me? I'm kidding. I think I knew that. All right. I fixed the stream. Discord was in a funny window shape, and it wasn't showing the entirety of Chris's head. So, sorry, that was my bad. But I fixed it now. Hooray. Anywho, shall we get into the news and booze, gentlemans?
Yes.
We're already in the booze, so let's get into the news.
That's our new theme song for the News and Booze. I wrote that tune, and I call it the Hammered Brothers. Which is actually, I got that name from the guy that was on the first episode of Drink to the Past before I even started it with Chris. When we were trying to think of names for the podcast, that was one of the names we came up with. I think he suggested that. So shout out to Cody. He's awesome. Go check out Cheesy C on TikTok. He's all popular and stuff because he did TikTok instead of YouTube, I guess. Apparently that's the way to get popular.
Well, if you do YouTube Shorts, if you haven't seen those, they get ridiculously popular. I'll link you a video at some point about the Spiffing Brit. If you've seen his podcast, he's all about game exploits and that sort of thing. Well, he apparently has figured out a way to game the YouTube algorithm to get ridiculously popular overnight for no reason.
Cool. I'd love to be ridiculously popular overnight for no reason. But, it is what it is. I'm not that worried about it. I'm going to move Discord down because I keep accidentally streaming my cursor.
I think you would have to upload way more videos to be ridiculously popular overnight.
Think that, but ironically, if you just do like one a day with the YouTube Shorts thing, the algorithm, you can trick it into currently making you popular in an obscenely short amount of time.
Neat. So go check out whatever that guy is. First piece of news and booze is the Paper Mario speedrun has been set for the world record. And this is the most hilarious speedrunning world record that has ever been, I think. This is for the original Nintendo 64 Paper Mario. And the new speedrun method actually uses, it's a little under 2 hours, I think. And this speedrunning method actually involves playing Ocarina of Time for about half of that time. So how this works, you can check out for a more in-depth analysis, and actually to see the run, check out JCOG on YouTube, JCOG. JCOG is the runner that ran this, and he seems unsure if this will count as an any percent, or if they'll actually have to make a new category for this particular type of speedrun, because basically what he's doing is he's getting up to a certain point in Paper Mario, then he switches out, he plays Ocarina of Time up to a certain point, which the way that he does it is able to write data to the Nintendo 64 expansion pack. And then he hits the reset button, and while the N64 is resetting, he switches the cartridges, so the RAM in the expansion pack keeps the written data from Ocarina of Time, and then he's able to load that in this portion of Paper Mario in order to teleport him to the end credits. Which is just the most batshit absurd freaking speedrun I've ever heard of, and it uses Ocarina of Time to make Paper Mario faster, and that's the best thing I've ever heard. What do you guys think about this?
I just want to say I'm a software engineer, and that still sounds like wizardry to me.
So I've seen some of the, I think it's Gold and Silver, they do essentially data editing through the name of Pokemon in order to speed run that to the end credits by manipulating the game state. So game state manipulation, I think, should be its own category of speedruns.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm personally more fond of glitchless speedruns, but even that being said, glitching out the game in order to achieve a favorable game state does definitely take a lot of skill. And so
yeah.
To assign them their own category, I think that's fair.
Yeah, so I don't know if this will count as an any percent, because as written, I believe any percent means you can glitch it in any manner, but I don't know that playing a different game to actually, because it's kind of using an outside source to modify the data within the game. So it's not hacking, but it's kind of hacking, right? So it's like that almost has to be its own separate category, but I'm not sure how that will eventually shake out in the speedrun community. I am not a speedrun expert. I just like watching pretty much mostly just Ocarina of Time speedruns, occasionally other speedruns, like if something weird like this comes up, or other Zelda speedruns or Pokemon. I've watched a few. They're kind of interesting as well. But so that's pretty cool.
I feel like even if it wasn't allowed in the rest of the speedrunning categories, it should have at least its very own category. It's a unique enough achievement.
Yeah. It is still the fastest anybody in the world has got from starting Paper Mario to ending Paper Mario. So, you take that for what you will. Next piece of news and booze is also an interesting Nintendo 64 related thing. Dinosaur Planet has leaked online, which Dinosaur Planet is an old Nintendo 64 game that was being developed by Rare, who you may know as them guys what made GoldenEye and Banjo-Kazooie, a handful of other stuff. So they were making this in the late 90s for the Nintendo 64. This particular version of the game was circa 2000 is what's in the copyright date in the code or something. So they switched the project to the GameCube in the middle of development, and it eventually actually became what we now have released as Star Fox Adventure. But it started as a totally different game with a totally different cast of characters, and then they ended up like reskinning it to make it a Star Fox game after porting it to the GameCube. So this is just an interesting kind of thing. I got my info from Forest Illusion on Twitter. That's just the word forest and illusion. So follow at them and if you are interested in more of this. But I just thought this was also just a crazy, weird leak that somebody found like this. I don't know if it was on like a development cartridge or something, but somebody found this and leaked it online, and you can now see what the original game was supposed to look like that became Star Fox Adventure.
Kind of like, was it Super Mario Brothers 2 was based on Doki Doki Panic and just reskinned to make an extra Mario game?
It's a similar situation to that, but in this case, the original project actually got scrapped and was never released. Well, not scrapped, but was never released because they eventually ported it and changed it. But yeah, it's similar situation there. So, you guys gonna go check out Dinosaur Planet and
I'm at least gonna look at it.
Yeah, I looked at a couple of screenshots, and it seems kind of interesting. It was apparently late enough into development that they had started, like, importing in Star Fox characters, because Fox is the main character in all the screenshots I saw, but he's still got the name of the old protagonist in the dialogue, which is kind of interesting. It's like, So I think it's just cool to see something mid-development like that as well. Because that's just not a thing that companies usually show off, you know.
Yeah, it's what it could have been before. And I kind of have mixed feelings about Star Fox Adventures myself, anyway.
Yeah, it was a game I never played, but a fair number of people said it's got a little bit of a cult following, and a lot of that cult following tells me that it's similar to a Zelda game. So I've always been curious, but I don't think it's available anywhere but GameCube, so it's probably balls expensive right now. Like my problem with finding my old Ocarina of Time disc, which we were talking about a while ago. I was like, I'll just buy a new one. I don't want to pay $150. What the hell?
I liked the game all right. It does have kind of an inexcusable glitch where if you do things in a certain order, you can basically soft lock yourself. You can't progress further in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. I did that several years before I even knew about the glitch and couldn't find the way forward. And only, I think about 10 years later, I found out that glitch was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next piece of news and booze, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remakes are coming to the Switch later this year, which they came to PS4 and other stuff last year, and everybody said, oh, well, everything Activision has ported lately has come to the Switch 6 months later, so this is not really a big surprise, but hey, they're coming, so if you've been waiting, they're coming. So, you guys play either of the Tony Hawk games? I know, Daniel, you and I played some... We played mostly Tony Hawk's Underground back in the day.
Yeah, I was never any good at that game. Like, not at all.
Nice. It's more fun that way sometimes, isn't it? I remember I was like that with Automobili Lamborghini, which was this Lamborghini licensed racing game for N64, and I was so bad at it that I literally just, like, at the start of every race, I would turn around and I would go on the track backwards and try to crash into people to fuck them up.
It was the most frustrating thing because anytime it felt like anytime I was ahead of our older brother, then I would be the first one, and here's Sean coming the wrong way, and so he'll crash into me head on, and now I lose the game because Sean hit me. And anytime my brother was ahead, for whatever reason, he would expect Sean. He's probably following the mini-map or something I wasn't paying attention to. And so he would dodge. And then anytime I'm like almost about to catch up to him, suddenly here I get head on again. And
Or like in Colin McRae Rally Racing, where I also really sucked at that game. So I would just like hold the trigger and just let the course drive for me. I just like bump into walls and stuff and just like whatever happens, it's fine. My car's already totaled before I even started the race. It doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. So there you go. Xbox games for gold has been revealed. So coming March 16th, sorry. I made a mistake. I have to drink. Oh, man. All right, I've put that away, so now I'm going to let it get out of my mouth for a second so I can actually taste this sweet, sweet stout. So this is an interesting game coming to Xbox Games with Gold March 16th. It's called Vala, which is an anagram and acronym. That's the word. Now I remembered the word. I have to drink now, but I'm going to drink in a second because I've still got chai in my mouth, and I do not want to disrespect this beer by drinking it with a mouthful of chai. So anyways, I owe you one drink. So anyway, VALA, V-A-L-A, stands for Vicious Attack Llama Apocalypse, which
that is a mouthful.
Yes, so you fight just shitloads of llamas. It's like a top-down twin-stick shooter, so you're moving and you're aiming with the other stick, and I assume shooting, and it just looks so insane. I am just so downloading this day one. It is like, what? What do I even do with this? I don't know, but I'm going to kill a crapload of llamas. You guys seen the trailer for this or anything?
I have not.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Definitely check out the trailer. It looks hilarious. I will, if I can make my capture card work, I will stream this on the next podcast after it releases. That'll be awesome. The Halo TV series was announced for Showtime last year sometime, I think. And it is now going to premiere on Paramount Plus instead, which is apparently Paramount is making a streaming service, because everybody has to do that these days. It will star Pablo Schreiber. I don't know who that is. And it's being executive produced by Steven Spielberg, and I know who that is. So I'm actually kind of like intrigued by that. I'm like, hold on, Steven Spielberg is producing the Halo series? Now, hold on. You have my interest piqued. Because, like, I was vaguely interested before, but probably not enough to, like, even bother, like, with a subscription service that I don't... Because I already have too many fucking subscription services. But now I'm like, okay, I'm going to download Paramount Plus at least to watch this and then cancel my free trial. So, you guys interested in a Halo TV series?
Sounds fun.
I'm interested. I feel like these series are attracting bigger and bigger names.
Yeah, because we were reporting last time we had a podcast, I think, that Pedro Pascal is going to be in the Last of Us series as Joel. So, and somebody else who is from Game of Thrones, and I forgot her name because I didn't watch Game of Thrones. As Ellie. Yeah, so, and of course, obviously all the big names in the Sonic movie, you know, I mean, relatively big, like Jim Carrey and then some other lesser but still sort of big names, but not quite Jim Carrey level big. So, yeah, video game TV is actually, and movies are, like, they're going places. It's cool. I'm so excited that, like, video game movies don't all just have to be hilariously amazing train wrecks.
It is nice when
Some of them are good in their own
yeah.
way, but it's also like kind of that stigma that like video game movies for a long time, even if they were pretty decent movies, just didn't at all embody what the game was about. So it's
The Warcraft movie was pretty good.
I feel like I watched that one because you let me borrow it on DVD, and then I forgot everything about it.
Speaking of which, do you still have my DVD?
I might. I will check. I don't know. Do you still have my Octopath Traveler? Speaking
I
of borrowing
still
stuff.
have not beaten the first boss.
Damn it!
Wow.
I thought you were going to say the final boss, because the final boss is literally, I was just having a conversation with this earlier with Seamus, who was on our podcast a couple of weeks ago. He's a cool guy. Check out @theSeamus, which is spelled funny, SEUMAS, Seamus, on Twitter. Check him out. He's a cool guy. He's writer for TGPZ Gaming and some other stuff, does some YouTube stuffs. I was just talking to him about it, and he, like, I guess spent a total of something like 400 hours in that game between just doing the game and also grinding up every character to level 99 to try and fight the final boss. And then he spent about 4 hours in the dungeon to fight because there's no save points in the dungeon. And first you have to fight 8 bosses before you fight the final boss. And the final boss has 2 phases, which both just, like, even the first phase just completely outclasses every other boss in the game by a lot. And I guess he spent like 4 hours and didn't even kill the first phase of it, and he's just like, damn it! So, yeah, that's one of those things that I need to get back to one of these days. I gotta catch up and grind to level 99 and not die horribly. Anyways, there was a Pokemon Presents presentation. Is it weird to say Pokemon Presents presentation? I mean,
Pokemon Presents presentate. I mean,
so there was a
they
Nintendo
present a
Direct
presentation.
focused on Pokemon. That's basically what it is. They just call it instead of calling them Pokemon Directs now, they call them Pokemon Presents. I don't know why. Pokemon Company is like, no, we're not going to associate with Nintendo now, even though we will always and forever make all of our games exclusive to Nintendo.
You say that now.
True. I mean, I did also stream Tembo the Badass Elephant, which was produced by Game Freak the other week, which was hilarious. Go check out my gameplay for Tembo the Badass Elephant. It is such a wacky ass game. Anyways, so there was a handful of announcement for the Tembo the Badass Elephant is like, you're an elephant, of course, and it's just a simple like action platformer, but the environments are all pretty good. The soundtrack's, not terrible. It's a fun game. It's something that you would expect to be produced by Sega or published by Sega. It is published by Sega. It's the quality that Sega would deliver on any other kind of 2D platformer like that, I feel like it's at least the quality of most Sonic the Hedgehog games. I thought it was a ton of fun. And it's just so ridiculous to be this elephant commando and just beat the shit out of stuff. It's awesome. Go check it out. It's also only like, it was on Steam sale the other week. I don't know if it's still on sale, but it was like $2 on Steam sale. It's like, I would easily have paid more. Now I'm getting into the beer. Oh, yeah.
Is that the drink you owe us?
Mm-hmm. I'll take an extra one just in case.
I'm sure you made it.
This is one of the smoothest beers I've ever had. Like, if you told me this was on Nitro, I would believe you. It has been sitting in this bottle. It says it's 2020 vintage, so I guess that it's been in the bottle for at least a few months. It says it's good to bottle condition for a while longer, but I couldn't wait because I love stout. So I might have to go back and like get another one of these and sit on it for a while. That
2020 was a bit of a year. Maybe it's just
right?
Extended.
2020 was the longest 10 years of my life, man. This is so... It doesn't feel as heavy as it is. It's 11 and a half or something. 11 and... Where does it say? It says on here somewhere. 11 and something. Anyway.
Sneaky stout, is it?
Yeah, it's you really get a lot of fruitiness from that Chardonnay barrel, which is uncharacteristic of a stout, but it's really kind of got a lot of the other kind of things you might expect from a, it's, other than that, it's fairly dark maltiness, not as dark as some things I would get. And it's not as harsh as like a bourbon barrel aged one as well. A lot of bourbon barrel aged ones kind of pick up that like woodiness, almost feel like you like dropped a shot of bourbon in it or something, and you're just like, which sometimes if they make that work, that can really work, and I actually like that. But this one is just ridiculously smooth texturally, and it's got that fruitiness, which really kind of works in contrast with the kind of malts that it's got. That is an excellent beer. I'm gonna sit on that for a minute before I rate it, just to let it stew. Anyways, so going into the Pokemon Presents, this was actually one done for the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, which has happened since the last time we had a podcast. Pokemon is 25 years old and can now legally rent a car. I don't know if that's true. They made a joke about it on Family Guy once. Anyways, there was a new trailer for new Pokemon Snap, which we've known that was coming out for a little while now. So it was pretty cool. Didn't really reveal a ton that we didn't know. There's like a new kind of ball that you can throw at Pokemon, and if they eat it, then they glow or something. So I think it's just them trying to replace pester balls, because you should not throw shit at Pokemon or wildlife
to piss them
that
off,
pisses it off. Yeah, just like, give me a better picture, you dick. I'm gonna throw rocks at you. This is not something that you should do. So I think it comes across to me as like, we don't want pester balls anymore. What do we replace them with? Okay, this'll work. So it looks fine. The game just looks cool anyways. I'm excited to have another Pokemon Snap. Also announced is Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are announced, coming later this year. They are remakes of the original Gen 4 games. It is unclear whether or not it's going to include any content from Platinum version, because some fans are like, oh, it needs to have all this cool stuff from Platinum. Like, people analyzing the screenshots and stuff have been like, oh, this NPC is here in Platinum, but not in the other ones, so they're including Platinum but it's like, it's not really enough to say anything for certain. So it's, but I think it's cool that, Gen 4 is getting a remake anyway. The art style is surprisingly divisive. Like, everybody in the gamosphere on Twitter either really loves it or really hates it. Have you guys seen the screenshots?
Right,
no,
or the trailer or anything? Yeah. So it kind of has a similar feel to Link's Awakening, where it's kind of like, in the overworld, you're like this like chibi thing with like this giant head, and so it really kind of looks almost like an updated, like 3D model version of the sprites from the original game. Because obviously the sprites in that era of game would just have a big-ass head. That's how it works. And so, personally, I really like it. And then it also switches art style to a more, realistic kind of proportions in the style, like what you're used to seeing in, like, Sword and Shield and that kind of Pokemon. So, I like it. I think it looks really cool. But it's very divisive in the Pokemon community.
Yeah, I think one of the things Pokemon does really well is they make it understood that it's representative scale. One of the things that always aggravated me about World of Warcraft is it's supposed to be realistic scale, but then there's so many places where it has to be representative scale because it's just too big of a world to actually render every picayune little thing. But Pokemon, by having the sprites that you walk around in the world with and you can interact with the world in that way, it makes it so that you can like zoom in on what is directly applicable or relevant, and otherwise you remain zoomed out so you understand you're in this world and all the trees and forests look like trees and forests, but it doesn't have to obviously store all of the data for the entire world all at once. As a side note, I would love World of Pokemon. Like, that might get me back into Pokemon, really.
Well, you know what the next announcement is called Pokemon Legends Arceus, which in the trailer they pronounced it Arceus, and I learned that I have been saying Arceus this whole time, which is wrong, but I'm still going to say Arceus because Arceus has arse in it, and then I can, like, make fun of British people saying arse. It's funny to me.
I'm still going to pronounce it Avacyn.
Nice.
What?
Avacyn, I think, is the official pronunciation of that, or something along those lines. From Magic.
Avacyn Reborn, as opposed to...
She's definitely
regular.
Avacyn.
Right. So, Pokemon Legends Arceus is a new open-world Pokemon game that is also set in the Sinnoh region. So, it's kind of going to tie in, I assume, somehow with this, but it's like... It looks like an older, like, it looks like the art style kind of reminds me of, like, older style Japanese culture. So it looks like it's set maybe, I don't know, a couple of 100 years before the Sinnoh games or something. And they have, like, more primitive looking Pokeballs, which is kind of interesting because I guess the Pokeball technology has been around for forever, since the ancient city of Pokemopolis.
Yeah.
There's an old-ass throwback from the anime there. If you get that reference, then you have to drink. But,
the only thing I remember from the anime is those jelly donuts.
You always loved those jelly donuts, didn't you?
Yeah. You gotta love those jelly donuts.
Yeah. So this is coming out next year, and I am just excited as balls about it because it's a fucking open world Pokemon game. I've been saying they should make, like, an open world Pokemon game for, like, almost as long as I've been saying an open world Zelda game, which it took them far too long to do both of those things, but finally we are going to live in a world where we have both of those things. The gameplay trailer also shows, like, you're, like, sneaking around in the wild, and there's just Pokemon around you, like fucking wild animals, like Pokemon are supposed to be, and you just, like, sneak up on them, and you can throw Pokeballs at them without battling and stuff, like in the anime, and it's just like, oh my god, this is everything I've ever wanted from a Pokemon game. Why did you not do this 20 years ago? It's so cool looking. I am so excited about this, and interestingly enough, it says there's a Pokemon professor who has traveled the world, so your starters are actually Rowlet, or Cyndaquil, or Oshawott, which are three different, they're still the same fire, grass, and water starters, but they're all from different regions, which I think is super cool. And I'm going to go with my buddy Cyndaquil because he's been my favorite starter since Gen 2 back in the day when I didn't have Gen 2 for a long time, and I was just like, I want a Cyndaquil. I'm like 10, and all I want in the world is a Cyndaquil. Yeah, so, God, I want this game. What's your hype for this game, guys?
I would definitely play an open world Pokemon game. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
What platform is it on?
It's coming for Switch.
Switch?
Yeah.
Then 17 out of 17.
All right,
I will buy this game.
Yeah,
like, if it was coming out for, like, Xbox, I still don't own an Xbox, and I
might buy that Series S, looking pretty good at that $300 price point. Oh yeah. Yeah. I keep having discussions about that. There's one of the guys in the two guys playing Zelda Discord server is always talking to me about, like, how I'm so stupid for buying the cheap version, and I'm just like, dude, all I'm doing is running Game Pass. I'm never going to buy a game as long as I own this system. I'm just subscribed to Game Pass, and 80% of it is for Halo. All I want is Halo. I've been getting a crap load of cool different other games on the service, because anyways, we'll talk about more Game Pass at some point. What were you going to say, Dan?
Oh, I was just going to say, back to Halo, a lot of the reason that I didn't want to buy an Xbox is because I would have to buy every single Halo to play Halo with all of my friends, because they're all going to ask, oh, do you have Reach? Do you have Halo 4? Do you have...
Yeah, well, that's the convenient thing, because first of all, they're all on Game Pass, so you could subscribe to Game Pass and just get them, or actually most of them are now in the Master Chief Collection, so you could buy the Master Chief Collection, and that comes with everything up to Halo 4, and the only non-included game is Halo 5, and nobody likes that one as well, so you're fine. I actually just played through that with our other brother, Tim, and it was interesting, but it doesn't feel quite like Halo. It's interesting. It's got like these weird squad dynamics and things, and you can tell that it was kind of made based around 4-player co-op, but then when 2 of your players are NPCs, it's just kind of weird, and then they die, and you're like, where the hell's Buck? Did he die again? Weird. Oh well. And then you don't realize, and he's like there again later, and it turns out that like they just respawn at every checkpoint, so it barely even matters if you die. And it's like such a weird mechanic. And then it's got like these weird Call of Duty elements, like when you're not dead, but like you've gone down, you can like call for help, and then your buddy can come resuscitate you, and it's just like, it feels odd and out of place in a Halo game. And like the action throughout was okay, and the level design was okay, but I'm just like, yeah, I could be playing Reach. So, anyways, that was all for the... yeah. That was all for that. So that was all the Pokemon news. So moving on, next piece of News and Booze. There is one little piece of Sony News and Booze before we will get into the State of Play, which is basically a Nintendo Direct, except for it's all PlayStation shit. But before that, Sony announced their online store is going to be discontinuing video services on August 31st. After that date, users who made purchases will still be able to view video-on-demand content that they have purchased, but no new content will be added, and purchases will no longer be possible. So this barely affects me, and I'm assuming it doesn't affect either of you, because neither of you have a PS4 or 5, I think?
Nope. PS3 was my last... big PlayStation console.
Yeah, so I've bought one movie on this because I, like, for a short while was like, oh, let's try to get into the digital movies because that's what people are doing now, right? Except now I barely ever remember to watch it because it's not, like, on a streaming service that I use much. Like, I pretty much watch most of my stuff on Netflix, and then I use my DVDs occasionally. So if I had bought it on DVD, it's Wreck-It Ralph 2, which if I had bought it on DVD, I feel like I would watch it way more than I do because I would have the DVD, and then I'd see it when I'm going through my DVDs. You know, I just never think of it because it's the only movie I've bought on this service. And then I have a handful of other movies also. I think if I'm going to do any more digital movie purchasing, I'm going to do them through Google Play because Google has fuck you money and they will always be there for me. And so I don't have to worry about that very much. And also because I get, like, I do surveys for Google of, like, basically they track my, you know, shopping history even harder, kind of. They give me surveys about my shopping history, and they're like, did you go to this store lately? Because we saw that you were close to it on your GPS or something. I'm not sure how they know. I bet that's how they know, because everybody tracks your GPS on smartphones these days.
I mean, they do kind of track everything.
But then I'm like, yeah, I made a purchase, and no, I didn't save the receipt. I'm a stupid millennial. What do you want from me? and then they give me like 30 cents Google Play Store credit, and I buy movies every now and then, or Pokemon Go upgrades. So, yeah. Anyways, nothing big about that, but for anybody who's interested, that's the thing. So, PlayStation State of Play has all sorts of crazy-ass stuff going in. There's also one more non-state of play piece of news and booze, but we'll get that at the end because it's related to the last thing that they announced in the state of play. So, first thing they started off with is Crash 4 is going to get a PS5 upgrade. It will run at 4K in 60 frames per second, and it has extra PlayStation 5 triggers, or extra... Drink. Hold on. I'm getting a buzz already. This is heavy. It will have extra PlayStation 5 features such as adaptive triggers because the PlayStation 5 controller is fancy and stuff. So this sounds kind of neat, but I'm still like I have no nostalgia for Crash, and I'm just like, is Crash 4 a good place to get into the series? I'm not sure. And there's enough other stuff that I am more interested in than a platformer on PS5 that when I inevitably get one, I feel like I just am personally not going to care.
Yeah.
You guys like Crash?
Final Fantasy VII?
We're getting to that. Ooh, there's stuff about FF7. If you haven't heard, that's coming up in just a moment. So stay tuned. If you don't stay tuned, you have to drink. It's a rule. I just made it up. I'm the boss of the podcast. You have to listen to me. I'm kidding. You don't have to listen to me. I mean, you're listening to me right now because you're listening to my podcast. So I guess you don't have to. You could push stop at any point, but please don't. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts instead. Anyways, Returnal had a gameplay trailer. This was announced a little while ago. It's a third-person shooter with kind of roguelike elements. It looks fun and fast-paced is what I wrote on here when I was taking notes, but now I've forgotten what it actually looks like. So I'm not really super hyped about this. Like, it looks fine. I think this is, yeah. I forget what... I remember this was announced at a previous state of play or something. I don't remember when it was announced, but it was announced a little while ago, and I think we vaguely talked about it. It looks kind of interesting, but I don't remember what it looks like anymore. So
yeah,
I
think I will give it a 4 out of 17 on the hype meter. From 3 to 17, it's a 4 because if I buy a PS5, is what it's on, right? If I buy a PS5, then maybe I will look into something about it if I hear more about it.
Right.
Maybe. I'm not completely uninterested, but
yeah,
I'm sure it might be cool, but I don't own a PS5.
So next announcement was Knockout City, which is interesting because this was announced in a Nintendo Direct, which was 2 weeks ago, I think, that I talked about this with our guest who was Crow. Crow is our guest. I was trying to think of who was our guests recently. So Crow and I talked about this one, but the trailer in the Nintendo Direct, made no sense. It was so weird. And this trailer actually just tells you what the freaking game is about. It's just like a crazy-ass dodgeball game where you're, playing dodgeball in the middle of this city, and there's, the maps are all 3D, and you can kind of jump around different areas in the dodgeball, or in the arena, and you're playing dodgeball, and it's got weird mechanics in some modes, like you can turn one of your friends into the ball and throw it at your opponent to score points, but if you accidentally throw your friend off a cliff or something, you lose points. So it actually, from this trailer, looks pretty cool. It looked kind of interesting from the other trailer, but the other trailer opened with this weird opening. It's like you kind of gotta watch it to really understand what the hell I'm talking about. But anyways.
So I did actually watch a short little amount of play of that game a few weeks ago, and I was I don't know. Maybe it's more fun to play than it looks, but it didn't look too appealing to me.
It looks kind of interesting. If it's done right, I feel like it would have the same kind of energy as Splatoon. but it's so hard to tell without actually playing it if it's got that energy. But there is actually a crossplay beta open now, so if you're interested in this game, you can get into the beta and try it out now. So go check that out. Look up Knockout City. I think the crossplay is open on PlayStation and PC, but I don't think it's coming to Switch, but I don't think the beta is on Switch. I could be wrong about that. So check that out for more information. They said the beta is crossplay, so I believe it's at least PlayStation. I'm not sure if it's coming to PS4 or PS5 or both, but anyway, it's also coming to PC, so check that out if you're interested. Next one actually looked kind of insane in a good way. It's called Sifu. It's coming later this year to PlayStation 5, and it's like some sort of crazy like action game, like doing just ridiculous, like it looks like you're playing a Bruce Lee movie. The trailer with the gameplay just kind of shows like your character and you're like blocking and punching and knocking people into walls and just doing all sorts of this over the top kind of like highly choreographed combat that you would see in like that old kind of martial arts movie, but it's somehow works in an actual game. And I'm just like, this looks like mechanically this has to be like very interesting. I'm very intrigued by this game. Did you guys see this, or are you interested from my description?
I'm interested from your description. Sounds like kind of an wuxia movie sort of deal.
Sounds like something. Sorry, sounds like something our older brother would like a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could definitely see myself checking that out. Yeah, coming later this year on PS5. Solar Ash is a 3D platformer by Heart Machine, who is the development company behind Hyper Light Drifter. Chris, did you play Hyper Light Drifter?
I never did, although it always seemed like the kind of game that would be right up my alley.
I think Crow talked about it on the podcast several times, so go back and look up those episodes where Crow's on the podcast, and you'll get an idea. Anyways, I've heard nothing but good things about Hyper Light Drifter, and this one looks kind of interesting. It's very flowy and fast-paced kind of gameplay, coming to PS4 and PS5, so it's kind of hard to describe much beyond that, so go check out the trailer if you are interested. It's more of a, if I remember, it was not as much of an action game as now I'm having a little trouble remembering. There's so much shit that was announced in this that I'm just like, I can't remember every little thing, but I think it was a little more platformy looking, but not that bad. With a decent mix of action is what it looked like. Next announcement was Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. It looks like generic Chuck E. Cheese shit is walking at you. I didn't think it looked scary at all. I was just like,
Were you not familiar with the original Five Nights at Freddy's series, or
I'm vaguely
aware
of it.
So
like some people say it's scary or something, but I don't know. Like none of the imagery that I've seen has particularly looked scary. And watching this gameplay trailer, I was just like, this doesn't look scary. It looks like the most boring horror game I've ever seen.
And
I just played the medium for 5 hours.
Because Five Nights at Freddy's is one of the few like horror games that I've played that actually managed to, scare me.
Okay.
And then, like, I was playing the game, and I was like, nope, I'm going to hit the escape button. This is too intense.
Okay, that's interesting. Maybe I'll have to check out the older ones then. And maybe this one is good, but it just didn't come across that way in the trailer for me. I'm not sure. I guess you would be better established to check out the trailer, and maybe at some point we can discuss that in the future if you look up the trailer at some point. But I just didn't think it looked very scary at all.
It could be that it's just a failure of whatever that game is.
Yeah.
Reminds me of was it Silent Hill, where they had the fog effect to cover over. It was ironically a technical limitation of the initial platform. They created this fog effect to fade out the further away you would see in the town or whatever. When they made a remake for it, they had more advanced technology, and so naturally they took away the fog effect because they could now render the whole town simultaneously, and it dramatically declined the actual horror aspect of it. I think it was Silent Hill. I can't remember if it was that one or another one in the genre. That it's iconic mechanic that you can't see everything around you. You can't see the other side of the street because it's covered in fog. That was a workaround for the mechanical limitations of the system it was created for. And when they updated it, they got a whole bunch of flack for removing it because that was part of the game, and that was part of what made it immersive and scary.
That's kind of a feeling I had with the remake of Doom 3. Because remember, in Doom 3, you actually had to switch to your flashlight if you wanted a flashlight. You couldn't just have a flashlight and a gun. You had to choose. Do you want your gun out, or do you want the flashlight out so you can see where you're going? And I thought that was such a cool mechanic that really intensified a lot of scenarios, especially with just how dark some of the stuff got. Because sometimes it was literally I put down the flashlight and now all I can see is the little light up display on my minigun that says how many bullets I have left, and that's the only thing on screen unless I'm shooting, and then the muzzle flashes you can also see. And I thought that was such a clever thing to use, guiding off of the muzzle flashes when you're shooting. But in the remake, I guess people complained about that a lot because it didn't click with everybody as a mechanic. And so in the remake, they made the flashlight like Halo, where it's you just have an on-off button on one of your buttons, and it's got a battery. So it'll die after a while, but it's in the remake, I felt like the battery life was long enough that if you were paying attention to it, you would never be screwed by it even once through the whole game. And I was it kind of really loses that effect, and it's kind of an interesting thing where it's similar, where they they tried to do something. I guess it's the same kind of thing, that they're just trying to update it and make it better. But in one case, it kind of worked, or I guess in both cases, it kind of didn't work, did it? Because it killed the immersion, huh?
Well, yeah, but legitimately, if I was Doom guy and I had to, have a flashlight out, I would definitely figure out some way of freaking duct taping that flashlight to my gun so that
at least be able duct tape it at a chainsaw or something.
Yeah, but legitimately, if you are thrust into that scenario, then it definitely does create a different immersion effect.
Mm-hmm. Next thing, Oddworld Source Storm got a new trailer. You had to lets you control the bad guys with shamanic magic, and has very highly featured areas in a 2.9D platformer. So it's largely side-scrolling, but it's kind of got that Yoshi's Crafted World thing where there's certain areas where you go back and forth on the screen. They described it in the trailer as a 2.9D platformer. I thought that was kind of fun. I'm not big into the Oddworld games, but my wife really, really liked them. She played a bunch of Abe's Odyssey, apparently, growing up. I remember seeing it on the store shelves all the time and being like, that game looked weird. What do you guys think about this? Anything?
I never played an Abe's World Odyssey game, so...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, which Kirby game was it that was 2.5D where, you would, I think it was...
Kirby 64.
Was that on the... Yeah, that might have been on Nintendo 64.
Yeah, where it's like it was basically 2D, but the environments were animated in 3D, and some of the stages would have you like moving in a 3D space, even though mechanically it was still a side scroller. And I thought that was such a cool leap forward in technology at the time, and now I'm just like, give me a fucking 3D Kirby game! It's been 35 years! It's been 35 years, and we don't have a 3D Kirby!
Nope, sorry, all you're getting is Smash Brothers.
Right.
Sometimes.
Although,
I mean, I don't mind Smash Brothers.
I had a 3D Smash Brothers. It was called Power Stone 2.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It was an interesting game.
Yeah. Kena, Bridge of Spirits got a new trailer. This one is one that I'm definitely picking up. It's just, like, looks so unique, and I'm not really sure what to say about it. You're, like, somehow interacting with a bunch of, like, spirit world kind of creatures that, like, kind of remind me of, like, sprites from a Miyazaki film or something. It's got like a bit of that inspiration in the art direction, I think, but at the same time, it's still kind of doing its own thing. It doesn't look like they're trying to push it too far into the Miyazaki kind of art direction, but it seems like it's got that kind of inspiration. And so this one was actually revealed last year as well. This is coming to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So this is kind of cool that it's coming on dual release. So if you don't have a PS5, you don't have to worry about it. But I think this is one that's really going to shine on PS5 because just the trailer quality, I feel like, looked like it was like higher than what my PS4 has ever put out for me. Although I'm also running on a base model PS4, so it's like I'm not on a Pro or whatever. So some people might have your mileage may vary, but this one is definitely going to be one that I'm going to pick up for my PlayStation 5 when I eventually get one. Yeah. Have you guys seen? We talked about this when it was announced, Chris. I don't remember if you remember.
I vaguely remember something kind of Miyazaki related. I don't remember much other than that.
Right.
That tells you about my memory.
Apparently. Yeah, right.
Captain
And next thing announced was Deathloop, which again was another old announcement. Just gave us a new cinematic trailer. Didn't really add any new info. So this is it's still kind of an interesting concept, but the new trailer I didn't feel like really gave us anything. Deathloop is a game where basically it's a shooter kind of spy espionage detective something where you respawn in a city and you have to like go do detective work to find out like where people are at different times of day and stuff and like murder like 5 people all in a day, except for if you die, then you have to restart. And so that's kind of one of the mechanics that like you go through a path and then eventually one of the rival assassins might take you out. So you might go a different direction next time to get different clues and stuff. So it's kind of got its own draw. It's a first-person shooter developed by Bethesda. So I'm really on board with most of the things that they've been doing in shooters. Obviously with Doom Eternal and Doom 2016, the Wolfenstein games generally, except for actually we forgot What You Playing this week, and I had something to say about Wolfenstein Youngblood, but we can get to that later if we get to it.
After the news and booze, probably.
Yeah, possibly. Actually, yeah, we could do that after news and booze. That'd be fun. So I think this game still looks neat. Like I said, it didn't really add any new info, but still looks neat. What do you guys think? Nothing?
Well, it from the description, it kind of reminds me of one of the old Titanic games in the era of like Myst and Riven, where you have the kind of so back in the 80s and maybe earlier than that, there was a program called HyperCard that a lot of games could be designed in relatively easily, that you have a screen you can interact with, and if you click on one thing, then it'll take you to another screen or something like that where you can interact with things and you solve puzzles that way. Where the Titanic one that I'm thinking of, you're on the Titanic and you're trying to investigate this plot to smuggle a rare book called the Rubaiyat, I think. And there is this assassin intrigue, so you have to figure out how to do different things. And of course, if you die or if you don't solve the thing before the Titanic crashes into the iceberg, then, most everybody dies. And you have to
technically you can't. You're not going to stop the Titanic from crashing, so everybody's going to die anyway. So what's the point?
I'm pretty sure, but yeah, the idea is you go back through and you can go. You can try to go cabin by cabin through the whole Titanic. It had explorable with these different frames that you could interact with, and you had this whole plot about you're trying to solve the mystery and save the day. So
it kind of reminds me of it. Wasn't there a game in that generation that we played with Myst and all that was kind of like that, but it was on a train?
Oh yeah, the Orient Express, and again, like murder mystery, I think, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
definitely getting a blast to the past from all of these.
Except it had a lot of interesting things, because every time you respawned, you could try it a little bit differently to kind of progress through it, because you're the first person to discover the corpse, but then if you come right out, then somebody will see you coming out of the room with a corpse, and then you'll be accused, and then you'll die instantly and lose the game. But if you can hide the corpse in one of the hide-a-beds or something that's in one of the coaches. And then if you go out of the room directly after that, somebody will notice that you have a bunch of blood on your shirt because you just hit a corpse, and you'll die again. And then you had to do all that and then throw your shirt out the window or something. I remember just it was a cool idea, but it was tedious as shit. And I was just no, I'm not doing this. I'm playing Marathon. Bang, bang, aliens die.
I love Marathon too, because in addition to all of the subplots that you could read through on the terminals, you could also just run through and kill whatever Durandal tells you to murder at any given point. And you could win, or you could look through the plot, and it was two entirely different games depending on how you prefer to play.
Yeah. All right, so remember when I teased Final Fantasy VII news? Because we're there. So this is a little bit...
this time
around. A
around.
little bit interesting and a little bit insane. And I don't know what I think about this yet, but... so Final Fantasy VII Remake is getting a PS5 upgraded version, basically. Which, if you have it on PS4 already, then you can... get a free upgrade to that if you buy a PS5, and if you have the disc version, then you have to put in your Final Fantasy VII, technically if you have either version and the digital version, you can be scan in the digital version somehow and it'll upgrade it to the PS5 version. But if you have the disc, I have the disc version of the game because I had to buy the stupid collector's edition, which I'm going to show off now because I can, because it's cool and it comes in a steelbook with Sephiroth, which is too shiny to see. But anyways, there's that. So if you put in your disc in ye old PS5, then it'll scan it somehow and give you free upgrade. So that's pretty cool. I'm on board with that part. It's got additional photo mode and some kind of controller upgrades because, as we've said, with the PS5 DualSense controller, it's got upgraded triggers and better rumble with haptic feedback and all that. So that sounds kind of neat. But the really big announcement here is that the PS5 version, if you just buy it, comes with a DLC pack basically for free. If you do the upgrade version, So if you put your disc in and upgrade or whatever from the PS4 version, then you'll have to pay an additional charge for this. And also, the DLC is not available on PS4. The DLC is PS5 exclusive. It is called Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. It's a side story featuring Yuffie and a new character, Sonon. This is going to come out on June 10th. And I just have so many thoughts about this because I think, first of all, it's a little bit scummy to make DLC exclusive to a new console. So you if you want to buy this DLC, you have to buy a new console. But secondly, I'm the kind of fucking sellout that's going to buy a PS5 to play this shit because this game is so good. So
yeah, personally, I'm not sure that it's intentionally scummy, as it were, because as I understand it, they actually developed this from kind of the ground up in PS5 native for this section of the content.
Yeah, I wondered if there was a potential for that, and actually it got me kind of thinking also about further potential DLC for the game and what that would entail, because basically when they announced this, first I was just like, oh my god, this game is getting DLC and I have to buy a PS5 now. What do I do? I'm gonna hold on. Let me subscribe to all these Twitter accounts that are trying to get me past the scalpers when Best Buy has one go online. But when I kind of took a step back and thought about it, I was like, actually, this might not be a bad thing, because one of the big things that's kind of a contentious issue about Final Fantasy VII Remake is that this here 2 Blu-ray discs of game is basically the first 3 or 4 hours of the original Final Fantasy. It's just until you get out of Midgar. And so people are like, how much more game is there gonna be? You know, is it just gonna be a part 1 and 2? Because otherwise it's like part 2 is gonna be really, really cut somehow. Or is it gonna be 3 or 4 parts? You know, it could be even longer than that, technically. But then, now that they've announced this as a separate, like, it's basically, while you're in your Midgar section in this game, this is the DLC is whatever Yuffie was doing at this time, which will delve into her character a bit between the Shinra war with Wutai. Bleh, that was a drink. But so I'm kind of excited about that just in general because of how well I think this game presents characters and just how fun it is to play. It's so good. And with this idea in mind, I'm kind of thinking, well, hold on. It could be 2023, 2024 by the time we actually see part 2. But if we got our part 1 and then we get a bonus chapter as DLC for Yuffie, what if we get a bonus chapter like 2022 as another buffer, and it's like all about Vincent, whatever he's been doing, or Kate Sith or something. Kind of some of these side stories, you know. Red 13 appears in this game, but it doesn't really go into his backstory and how he got, like, abducted by Hojo and all that shit. So, what was up with him before? We could have an extra side story. And so, actually, thinking about it that way, I'm kind of like, if they do this the way that I'm kind of imagining it, they could, like, have a big-ass part of these, like, every 4 or 5 years, and then fluff it out in between with a smaller DLC side story every year, right? Because that wouldn't be theoretically too hard to make, considering, you know, what all goes into this in theory. And like, this is all conjecture on my part, but if this is what they do, then I will eat it up and I will buy every freaking one of those. And I know I'm not alone.
Yeah, personally, part of the reason that I haven't bought a PS4 and now 5 yet is because I want to have Final Fantasy VII Remake like already by the time I buy it, because I will want to play all of it rather than just, you know, the part up until you clear out of Midgar.
Right.
But I am I'm kind of glad that they haven't done a whole lot of DLC, because there's plenty of DLC that they could just add random crap.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if they're handling it like this has a purpose. And I think of all people, Yuffie?
Yuffie?
I think I have to drink one of these ways. I'll go grab something out of the fridge in a second.
I'll drink for you.
But thank you.
I'm a pal like that.
She has one of the
God,
most underused backstories in the entire Final Fantasy VII universe. Like, Vincent was hinted at, and he was sure in, Crisis Core and some other things.
He also had his own game that I don't remember the name of, but is sitting over there on my shelf somewhere.
Yeah, but Yuffie, we know that theoretically she's a ninja. She learned her ninja ways somehow. She works for Wutai, and Wutai has had this whole war with Shinra this whole time, but none of that was explorable or viewable.
She shows up in Crisis Core, like, very briefly, and Zack is just like, I don't have time for your shit, and he goes and fights the boss instead. It's just like, because she just comes out and she's like, I'm one of the great warriors of Wutai, and Zack's just like, okay. Just walks right by her. So I don't remember exactly how that plays out, but I remember she's like all bragging and boasting, and Zack's just like, who the fuck is this kid? What the hell's going on? I don't have. I'm here on a mission, buddy. Get out of my way.
Yeah. Also, Yuffie is one of my favorite characters in Final Fantasy VII. So,
yeah, I always thought she was pretty fun. She gets more hate than necessary.
Well, just because she robs everybody all the time.
Right.
As soon as you understand she is going to rob you multiple times, it's fine.
Right. Yeah. So,
You weren't using that materia in your pocket.
Right. All right, well, that was the final announcement for the State of Play, but while we're on the subject, outside of that, there was a couple of other Final Fantasy VII announcements, of all things. Final Fantasy VII is getting a prequel, which is odd because it already has a prequel, but it's getting another prequel, which is a Battle Royale game for iOS and Android.
That is
What do I even make of this?
People have been asking for a Final Fantasy Battle Royale, so I'm not going to bash on it too hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I feel like I kind of get getting in on that Battle Royale thing because it's where all the money is right now. But Final Fantasy VII to me seems like a weird place to put a Battle Royale, and coming out for mobile devices only. Like, what the hell?
very weird.
Yeah, I think that's like the weirdest part of this is that it's just a mobile game that's a battle royale that's somehow canonically linked to Final Fantasy VII, and I'm just like, how complicated is this canon gonna get?
How does a battle royale fit into Final Fantasy VII?
Oh,
I don't know. I'm not even totally sure how the
There's been multiple wars in the history of the lore. Like, Shinra conquered basically the world. I mean, that was a thing. And then there's also like the story with Barrett and Dine. They were both fighting against Shinra at one point, and we were just talking about Wu Tai fighting against Shinra. So.
Yeah, so the first Soldier will release on mobile later this year. It's weird to me. And another mobile spin-off is coming next year called Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which is going to be a more story-driven experience, but they didn't really say anything more than that. So we've got kind of brief descriptions of these games. One's going to be a Battle Royale game that's a prequel, and one's going to be also somehow Final Fantasy VII related and more of a story-driven game. So I assume that you're kind of going to get like the basic story of whatever's going on in First Soldier, which is the Battle Royale one, and it'll kind of just like drop off there, and then you'll beat the shit out of 100 other guys because that's what you do in Battle Royale games. And The other one, I guess, sounds like it might be a more traditional. I'm not really sure because they said nothing about gameplay for this one, but just said it would be a more story-driven experience. So I'm not really sure what to make of that, but I am more interested in it because I would honestly, I just got a new phone and it is super cool and it's ridiculously powerful and nobody makes games I want to play on it. And I feel like it's a little bit wasted because like I do cool phone stuff, but I'm just like, do I really need 60 frames a second in Pokemon Go? Is that what my new phone amounts to? Which actually it is surprisingly smooth in Pokemon Go, and it's so weird. Like upgrading, because that's the only mobile game I really play anymore is Pokemon Go, and I'm not even really that hardcore in it anymore. I play like every few days. I'm just like, what's around me? Is there any Pokemon? Or if I'm at Target, I always remember that when I'm at Target, which is not all the time, because actually I don't go to Target very much anymore because there's a pandemic. But when I'm at Target, I remember that the Starbucks is a Pokestop. Because every Starbucks around is a Pokestop. Because Starbucks said, hey, here's a shitload of money. Put us in your game.
Fair.
Yeah.
Great advertising.
It is. Because I remember when I first saw it, it was like promo Pokestop, and like when I scanned it, it was like going to Starbucks for a Pokemon Frappuccino, and I was like, I gotta get one! Oh my god! That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Real Pokemon?
The what? Oh yeah. I don't remember what it was in it. It was like some sort of rainbow colored fruity thing. It was pretty good. I'm not good at drinking Starbucks. Whenever I go to Starbucks, I'm just like, I want a coffee. And they're like, what? Black coffee.
All you have to say
dark.
Is, mocha latte-chino. Hold the mocha, hold the latte, hold the chino.
They're just like, all right, just give you a fucking empty cup.
No, I still want the coffee. Just
right. Maybe that's what I should do. Yeah.
I'll go grab one.
All right. Well, that's all of our news and booze for the day, which was our video game topic. Because it was a lot of news. That was a lot of news and booze. So we're actually almost up to our target run time, which we've been running over consistently for months. So, anyways, I guess we'll wait for just a second for Dan to get back with what you playing. And because I forgot that was the video game topic, and I didn't play the theme song for the video game topic, I have to drink. And also, I will play the theme song for the video game topic.
I mean, you can only really play one theme song at a time. Can I still drive this even though it's flat? What?
Chris is driving a flat car.
I am. I also
I think
have
that means we have to drink. I have no idea.
Feeling that.
So anyways, that was our video game topic, and here is our video game theme song.
Whoa.
Fancy.
I wrote that tune too. That's our video game topic theme song. Because I wrote that song actually after a character in Octopath Traveler. Go play the game.
It's on
Dan.
Steam, I
Go
think.
play the game. So yeah, who did you start as?
Cyrus, I want to say. And
Cyrus
like,
is cool. I love his story. Oh my
Yeah,
god, every character in this game is so fucking cool though. Oh my god, why have you not sunk 400 hours into this game yet? I mean, technically, I only sunk 120 in because I didn't grind for the end boss yet, but, you know, this is such, like, if there's any game worth sinking 120 hours into, this is it.
Yeah, I might be able to play it at work. Maybe technically, we're not allowed to have laptops at work, and we're not allowed to have computers other than our work computers. But we are allowed to have phones and tablets, and no one has commented about the fact that a Switch is not a computer yet. So
a Switch is technically
a
tablet. It's running on more or less the same hardware as an NVIDIA Shield, which is a gaming tablet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Switch is just a gaming tablet that happens to come with controllers. Right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So.
Very strange conversation.
Anywho,
well, it's not very strange. It's still a little strange.
So shall we go into our table topic for the week?
Let's do it.
All right, so the table topic for the week is the trope of NPCs. Oh, no, sorry, PC. I already screwed it up. So I'm going to rate this beer. This is actually one of the best freaking beers I've ever had on the podcast. This is at least a 16 on our scale of 3 to 17. Epic. If you are in the Denver area, go check out Burns Family Artisan Ales. They're pretty close to like 6th and Federal, right off of there. So check them out. Awesome place. Epic beers. Anyways, so table topic for the week is the trope of player characters having a shitload of gold, so they just hand it over way too much at a time, which I think in the YouTube description here I kind of described as just like mishandling of wealth by player characters, because this is a thing that's been coming up regularly in one of my games that I play, and that I've seen a lot over the years, and it kind of depends on the player, that like, oh, we're at the inn, and I order an ale, and I'm such a generous player character, and the guy says, oh, your bill is 4 copper because that is the bill for an ale, and I am so generous, and I just hand him 10 gold. And you're like, you just broke the fucking economy. That's what he makes in 10 fucking years, man. So it's like, I kind of get the idea that you want to be like a generous guy, but like at the same time, like it's a little bit immersion breaking from which I have been guilty of this at different points in my D&D career. So it's not like something that I'm saying like you're wrong for doing, but like when I get to thinking about it and just the way that wealth is handled sometimes by player characters, it's just like if you like take a step back and look at it, you're just like, what?
So, what if I told you that that kind of wealth disparity was more historically accurate than you thought?
I would be interested to hear your take.
Because it used to be that wealth disparity, like, we think wealth disparity is pretty great these days. Yes, right. That's true, but wealth disparity was even greater, particularly in times like the Middle Ages or times like early modernity.
That's kind of fair, but at the same time, like, would a person in those ages tip that much? Like, if it was even appropriate at all? Like, imagine you go into McDonald's, where it is not expected of you to tip, and you buy a Big Mac for $5 or so, and you give them like $25,000.
So
that is essentially what you're doing when you're giving them like a year's worth of wages for, you know, a beer.
So if you there used to be a historical thing called the gold to silver ratio, where it used to be that a silver basically a silver coin was your standard unit of currency or whatever. Oh crap! I am $1 short of buying this health upgrade. That's no good.
Mm-hmm. And now you spent all your money, so you'll never get it.
Oh. Yeah, yep. And a gold florin, or a gold coin. A florin, I think, is Italy specific. Was basically worth anywhere from 10 to 12 times a silver piece, but it wouldn't be totally out of line for like a silver coin to be something you'd handle in regular money, and gold being worth 10 to 12 times that much. Say I got handed 10 gold pieces, that's like getting tipped, like, I don't know, $2,000 or something like that. It's not like getting tipped $20,000. It's an order of magnitude.
I guess it kind of depends on how you're actually looking at it, because, like, in DMG, I feel like it explains that a commoner makes roughly a gold piece per year or something, isn't it?
A commoner could not support themselves off a gold piece per year. If you go, this is me doing the nerd thing I do, where I actually go in and I model, like...
That's fair. So the DMG is full of plot holes. Fuck you, wizards.
The one gold piece per year is actually, I think, based on partially on the Rokugan system, where one koku was the measure of an annual wage for a random commoner. So if, for example, samurai would be assigned from their liege lords an amount, a stipend, and this would pay for whatever laborers they had under them, who they would pay the laborer one gold piece, in this case, one koku per year, but the samurai would make like 100, and the liege lord might have 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever. But with all of that being understood, the commoner would still have their house, where if you were going to just buy a house, that might cost, 10 or 15 koku, or what have you. It's just they wouldn't deal with it in that sort of money. They would actually make it. I think the average NPC commoner has around 260 gold worth of possessions by one estimate, just based off of, they have their house, or they have their livestock, they have their tools to apply their trade, whatever, and that all approximately makes about 260 gold worth, but they don't necessarily have even a single copper piece to their name, because the coinage, they don't necessarily deal with that very much. If they are employed, then they'll probably have some form of revenue from their liege, but they still have to also keep themselves alive and feed themselves. So that'll be where where the majority of their actual wealth is not in coinage, even though, for example, if you tipped them, 10 koku, that'd be like mind-blowing, but it's not necessarily more than a 10th of their wealth or a 20th of their wealth in total.
And medieval economies, and medieval and like early modern economies in particular, coinage, as we think of it, like the D&D economy is pretty unrealistic because cash economies weren't much of a thing. Like,
right,
the economy was much more goods-based. We use cash economies because they're convenient for they're like good for gameplay. They're not particularly realistic.
Right.
Yeah, like in the Roman period, the soldiers would be paid in salt, and they could take that salt and either use it to, season meat so that they would be able to keep it for extended periods of time, or they could just trade bags of salt for whatever other goods that they would want or that they would need. And so trade goods were vastly more common. In the colonial period in the Americas, fur trade was one of the popular ways that, furs could be used to make basically everything. You would need furs at some point or another in the production process. And so furs were valuable both to the natives and to the European colonists, who would exchange these things for other things that they would need from more specialized producers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and another thing is, it makes sense that if you're an adventurer and what you've done, like, let's say you're like a level 1 adventurer, you've set off from, like, you're just starting out, you're not particularly wealthy, and then you stumble upon a great amount of money, as, like, successful D&D adventurers tend to do. Makes sense that you'd be really crazy generous with your money and do things like totally fuck up the wage economy of a local town for a while.
Yeah,
It kind of makes sense for like immediate like if you win the lottery, right? That kind of thing. You might fuck around with your money for a bit, but so do you think it changes if you're like, because that's like immediate wealth gain, and then you have that immediate generosity as kind of your like response to that. What about like an adventurer who's been a regular adventurer for 5 or 10 levels that's just been ridiculously rich the whole time? At that point, is it still normal to just be like, oh yeah, here's 50 gold for you, Mr. Barman who gave me a beer?
I would say that's not normal, but you're going to see a new barman the next time you come in, maybe. Or maybe that barman's always going to like fight other people to serve you because he knows how well you tip.
Right?
It reminds me
I think actually
of,
that would be an interesting thing to work into your campaigns as a DM when your players act like this, because I think most of my objection to this is not necessarily that it's like stupid unrealistic or anything. It's just that like it seems like it's a little bit that it's unrealistic, and I forgot what the fuck I was saying.
I think
What
that
was I
means
talking
you
about?
right.
I got the sign here.
it reminds me of the Skyrim. They had the system for like emergent gameplay or emergent story options, where one of the things was if you drop a valuable item in front of an NPC, they might ask you, are you going to pick that up, or can I have that, or something like that. And one of the things that would happen if you drop a ridiculously valuable thing in front of 2 NPCs, there was a small chance that they would fight to the death over it. And so I think that might be an interesting gameplay thing as a DM to say that basically, the rogues in the town have heard that, you're flippantly handing out money to every bar wench who has a pretty face, and so they try to rough you up, and of course that is not going to work out well for the town rogues, but then they might also just start roughing people up who you have tipped if they're not getting their fair cut of it, and you might have to, actually explain to the NPCs why you are giving these generous tips, because every time you give a ridiculously generous tip, they get visited by the mob at night, and that kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It does frustrate me almost constantly when my players will do different things and just drop ridiculously expensive things on NPCs. But
Right.
On the other hand, in at least one of our campaigns, my blood mage definitely did intentionally break the economy of everything around him so that he could dominate it and make gold effectively worthless. And so now if you have some of his exotic coinage that he produces and he considers valuable, then you can buy his goods and services, which include, among other things, like wishes and random crap like that.
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Is it
you
weird
want
that
to be
Skyrim
immortal?
got
You can
re-released
buy that, but-
like so far later on Switch from its original release that like now that like Switch is the normal, like it comes with no paperwork. There's no map. There's no manual. This game has been reprinted so many times that the times have changed that much. Like, I was gonna complain that it has no map, because the Xbox 360 version came with this badass map and stuff. But the Switch version doesn't even come with a manual. I miss opening a new game and sniffing the instructions.
I think we're beginning to become products of a bygone era doing that.
Right?
Yeah.
Who the hell sniffs the instructions anymore?
Feelies.
Is it weird that I have 2 Skyrim cases within reach?
Knowing you, not really. Have you heard about the Beyond Skyrim mod series?
No, I don't really follow the mods much. The only mod I got was I got the Switch version that comes with Zelda shit, which is cool. But that's official, so just like,
yeah.
Okay.
But
Plus, actually, the
Beyond
motion
Skyrim-
controls in that game are surprisingly, like, not bad, because it's like you can pull back your bowstring with the Joy-Cons, and that's just like super fun. And then like with your Master Sword and Shield, it's just like, look at me, I actually have like legit motion control sword and board mechanics. They're pretty fun.
Nice.
It's not super in-depth or overwhelming, but it's just one of those games that's actually pretty fun to play with split Joy-Con.
Definitely. But yeah, the Beyond Skyrim mod series, they're working on incorporating the rest of the world into the Skyrim world to be explorable. So the first one I think they released was Beyond Skyrim Bruma, where you can just go to Bruma over in Cyrodiil, and they have more quests and more stuff that you can do, but it's obviously in Skyrim. So personally, again, I want a fully explorable world where I can go from Morrowind to Skyrim to Cyrodiil to wherever.
Right. One of these days, they won't do it because they're still working on Elder Scrolls 6. They announced like so many years ago now. Like, how many years ago was it? It was like, I think that was before the Switch launched.
Yes.
So I think that was like E3 2015 or 2016.
2018 it says. They
So it was a
they
little
announced
after the
it.
Switch launched. Okay.
Legitimately, we are talking about Bethesda, and sometimes they will just not announce something even though they are working on it, because they're like, well, we don't want to announce it if we don't have like devoted teams working on it. We will be working on it in the background or whatever, but not necessarily going to give you any definitive launch schedule because we're working on a million different things at any given time.
Right. I mean, sometimes game companies do that too, because you can tell that lately, especially Nintendo has done that, because like last year they pretty much announced like nothing at the start of the year, and then they just like drop a trailer for something randomly on YouTube and be like, Paper Mario's coming out in a month. They're making a new Hyrule Warriors in a month, 2 months. So what? So you're giving me no time to hype, man, but that makes me more hype somehow. What the hell? It's awesome.
It's the theory of instant gratification or something like that.
Yeah, something, because it's just like,
I
hey,
tell you,
hype
there's
yet?
going to
Here's
be...
some hype, here's some hype, here's another trailer, here's a character, here's some DLC, whatever, and you're just like, okay, I was going to buy it in the first place. Shut up and take my money! Yeah.
I would
Chris.
say the truly unrealistic thing about the D&D economy is having level 1 and level 20 people in the same world together. That kind of throws everything off, because it's not just wealth, it's the fact that one person can alter reality with their mind several times a day, and the other person farms. Kind of a...
Yeah, I think I phrased a theory at one point that level 1 wizards should not exist in the wild. Like, any of their statistics would tell you the average encounter would kill them. Like, if they were legitimately going into battle, they have to have someone who is more powerful than an average level 1 encounter in order to be able to overpower it and save them in order for them to physically exist.
But then you'd have to shoehorn in like some sort of crazy, like cringy, like story element about everything revolves around a school, and it would end up just being Fire Emblem Three Houses or Harry Potter or something like, or Final Fantasy VIII. I was playing that, and it was like, Final Fantasy VIII, I felt like, was really bad about that. It's just like, look at us, we're going to monster hunting college or some shit. What the fuck are you doing, man? I don't have time for your shit. Hold on, I'm uninstalling you, and if I'm going to play a classic game, it's going to be Resident Evil, because apparently that's on Game Pass, so...
Yeah, legitimately, the clear delineation of monster-infested areas and civilization is another world-breaking dynamic about most Dungeons & Dragons games, where you can just, we'll just go over into the forest over there where the evil bugbears live, and, you know, we'll just fight some things and get higher levels so that we can defeat this warlord here in town. But otherwise, as long as we stay in town, for some reason this exists. I think I voiced a theory at one point that humans exist. Apparently we have to drink. He's holding up the sign.
Yeah, sorry, while you were mentioning that, I remembered that because we delayed the theme song for the video game topic, I realized I forgot to play the theme song for the table topic. So finish your thought, and then there'll be a theme song.
But the theory was that humans exist solely because, for whatever reason, monsters like vampires specifically prey on them for their life force, and so they're essentially farmed. So they're free roaming, but they're essentially farmed for more powerful monsters to devour their life force at some point or another. And that's the only reason civilizations of level 1 human commoners exist in the presence of, say, the red dragon on the hill.
I almost
wonder if you would like Carcosa.
Carcosa, you say?
Yeah, it was a setting on kind of a Lovecraft mythos setting on an alien planet where humans were basically Stone Age equivalent, but could pilfer things like space alien technology and get strong that way.
It might be interesting. But
I talked to a guy that ran like a LARP community one time, and he had a similar idea to that in the LARP campaign that he was doing at the time, and it sounded super interesting, actually, and I wanted to go, and I didn't end up going, but he actually, like, in order to promote this, I guess he had like a place that you would go to and like pay a fee to run through the LARP campaign or something, which sounded like a kind of a neat little business. And he gave me a business card for it, but the business card was like an in-character business card, and it was for this in-character corporation called Sable, which was another acronym for the Society for Alternative Bloodletting. And so the idea was that, like, this vampire cult had, like, struck a deal with these townsfolk that if they come and donate their blood, then the vampires won't eat them. So it was like,
that's legit.
That's actually was a kind of a... But anyways, I forgot the theme song, so here's the theme song. All right. I just realized that playing the theme songs live every week could potentially get hilarious because the further we go into the podcast, the more drunk I am. And
Can't imagine why that happens.
I don't know. It's probably not because I keep drinking this 11% beer.
11%.
Yeah, actually, this is not very high considering how high these guys go. Because at the beer tasting I was at, I think the average was around 18. Because they're all like barrel aged stouts, right? And like they started off with like just the stout by itself that. Normally they don't sell because they make it specifically just to barrel age, but they gave that for the purpose of the tasting to just kind of see this is what it is like characteristically before it even goes into the barrel, and it was super interesting. And then they do all sorts of different things like a single barrel, a double barrel, and a triple barrel aged different versions of it, and they had a couple of different versions of it that had been like sitting in bottle conditioning for 15 years and 18 years, and it was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And I think the last one topped out at 21% or something, so that was a good beer tasting night. Check out Burns, they're amazing. And this white stout is actually really, oh my god, this is super good. Yeah, I never imagined that Chardonnay barrels would be like this is like legit one of the best beers I've ever had. This is amazing.
Wow.
Wow. I'm going to pop this up to a 17, actually. This is a 17 beer. I've had...
Not an 8.
Yeah, not an 18. Occasionally we break the rule and have an 18 because, like, if you... The basis for our stat system, our beer rating system, is it's 3 to 17 because in D&D... when you're creating a character, you roll d6 to get a random number between 3 and 18, except for most of the time if you get an 18, you're cheating. So we only give beers 18 if they're worth cheating for. And this is really close to that. So I'm going to pop this up to a 17, which is the highest score it can get without cheating. So it's very good beer. Anywho, is that all we have to say on this table topic, or is there any last thoughts you have on spending gold unrealistically, or just kind of the ways that PCs treat their wealth?
I am in one campaign right now where essentially we have this town and we just got attacked and driven out of town, and so we have to get along in the wilds. And one of the biggest limiting factors for us right now is we just don't have the supplies to do hardly anything. Like, my character is a leather worker, and when we go hunting, we get like a couple of rabbits, or maybe we get a deer or something like that, and it takes us like 5 days to tan a hide, but then we have one hide. How many suits of armor can you make from one hide, you ask? Well, you probably have to have like a dozen different hides to make all the leather, depending on what kind of animal you get it from. So at this point, even the wealth of how much, say, a piece of armor costs is kind of skewed based on having that just ubiquitously available in the given area.
Mm-hmm.
So, if anything, it's we might have coins, but it wouldn't even matter for what we actually need the wealth for. We need the stuff, the trade goods that you never hear about. Yeah,
that's an interesting way to handle it. That doesn't, like, in most campaigns, you know, I think that's a length that's like you have to go to an extra length as a DM to like make it work that way. So I think it's easier to take the cop-out route and just like, yeah, goods and services based on the DMG or you know, whatever, player's handbook.
And a lot of a lot of economic things are going to get brushed over because D&D is a game built around the cash economy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
And at the end of the day, it's also really a game that doesn't really have anything to do with the economy at all. The economy kind of has to be there for an interim thing to do sometimes, and for the sake of power balancing gear as you level up. But that's really the only mechanical reason that there's any economy at all.
Yeah. I think the
Which as a DM,
spellcasting
I
goods
also
and
kind of...
services is one of the most broken things too, where it's just like, oh, Freddy died, so I guess we have to go back into town and spend a ubiquitous amount of gold on getting the local cleric to revive him from the dead. And then he's going to have lost a level, and so we'll have to just take some diamond dust that we have.
No, bro, it's just easier if I create a new character. It's okay.
Right? Yeah. The availability of magic in the system breaks all
sometimes
convention.
that's kind of I feel like we could have another discussion on that about, like, once you're past a certain level, it's like TPK or nothing matters.
And in some cases, TPK and still not a lot matters.
Right, yeah, because
I
one
actually
guy's
kinda
got
wanted to get
fucking, like, Phoenix Down and Quadra Magic or whatever.
I wanted to bring up a case that just happened this last Sunday that I'm still kind of smarting from. Is Mike in sorry everyone in my group, but we encountered an enemy who had a shack, and he was like a bomb making enemy. So of course I was like, fuck it, blow up the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't know, and what I probably should have suspected, was that he had a very big bomb in that house that actually wiped all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But we all had various methods for immortality. Like, some of us had magic jars. Some of us had, like...
Breath of Life brings back the cleric and he fixes everybody else.
Yeah.
Some shit.
So everyone was able to come back to life. The big loss was the magic items.
Mm-hmm.
But just the fact that I could blow up a house and reduce the entire area to cinders, and including me and everyone in the party, and that we would be like, oh, and that our biggest loss would be like, oh, we lost our magic items.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Wish can figure those magic items out anyway, right?
Right.
So as soon as you're able to throw
at that
those
level,
like
yeah.
candy.
Trust me, I spent a lot of the week figuring out how to get back some of what we lost.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're more or less already slightly off topic of the table topic. So shall we go to our closing topics? By which
Sure.
I mean the closing segment of the podcast is where we kind of wrap up, talk about, just kind of plug our various things, and then we talk about just inane bullshit until we say something really awkward and I cut off the podcast. So our glorious guest, Dan, everybody can find you on Twitter. Do you do anything else that you want to plug? Did you ever finish that webcomic?
So the webcomic is currently on hiatus.
You ever make more than 2 pages?
Say what? No, I did make several pages at one point, but I have been meaning to get back to that, but the long and the short of it is that my book has morphed and reformed several times over then. So the idea behind the webcomic was just that I would make a weekly contribution, which I actually bought a desk again. So that will help me to be able to draw at a desk. And that is kind of one of the keys for me to kind of be motivated to put it into a webcomic form.
Yeah.
But
I
the
drew
idea
something
is
once, which was the. Oh no, this is the title pending one. This is for my old YouTube channel. The wrong
title
one.
pending.
I was looking for the drink to the past. There's the drink to the past one. There we go. Yeah, I get a Triforce, and there's me. I got no. Oh, hold on, it's backwards on the stream. I had to point my finger in the right direction. There's me. I got my bear, and Chris is over here with his giant ass mage book. There you go. I can't
believe
see
that
what it says.
Chris. It's kind of blurry.
RPG you never heard of. That sounds like Chris.
What?
Do you want to play some random RPG we've never heard of?
Yeah, you're
yeah.
on camera. We can actually do Chris Brings a Thing. You got a random RPG you want to plug?
Let me go over. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I know just what to pick. I looked over at my shelf. Hold on.
Yeah. Speaking of which, though, have you seen? I guess when our older brother updated the Minecraft server that he has, he added some mods, and theoretically, one of them is to be able to roll dice and stuff. So I think we might be able to host some kind of D&D night with us on his Minecraft server in Minecraft. And he has, if you haven't seen the pub, it's amazing. You should definitely play on the Minecraft server with us. That's probably what I'm going to do.
Because I kind of set it up so that my 6-year-old could play, because he was kind of getting into Minecraft, or at least the idea of it. And I think he would have a lot of fun but he has some difficulty figuring out twin stick first-person controls, and you have to be a little more exact in Minecraft than any other twin stick game he ever has played so far. So I think it's just the fact that the twin sticks and being in first person and the exactness of it and all the somewhat complicated mechanics of Minecraft coming together are just a little overwhelming for him at the age that he currently is. And personally, I don't play a lot of Minecraft, and it's not that I don't like it, it's that I always kind of get stuck in a groove of this is the game I play when the kids are awake, and this is the game that I play when the kids are asleep, because it's got a lot of blood and gore and shit. So, recently I've been playing Burnout Paradise while they are awake, and maybe I'll get back on Minecraft, because actually somebody else was talking to me about playing Minecraft too, so maybe I'll get back to playing that a little more, because I've kind of I've almost had my time with Burnout Paradise, because it's they took away Crash Party, and I'm like, why? Why would Burnout take away the best part of Burnout? But it's it's not bad. It's a fun game, and it's got, it does well what it does well, so. But,
anyways, Chris random RPG.
Chris brings a thing.
Chris brings a thing.
I don't know if this is the right way around for you guys on the other end here, because my own camera is reversing me, but The Stygian Library by Emmy Allen, whose name is not on the cover. She ended up writing 2 kind of random dungeons that I think are some of the few random dungeons in D&D that actually work and play quickly, because the things you roll, you can roll up fast, and then you don't have to waste a bunch of time generating a bunch of stuff at the table. It's just a few rolls and then you're done.
That's convenient. Didn't we make a system like that?
Well, at one point, I did have my first campaign session be basically, all right, ready, go. And everyone was like, what? We haven't even made characters. But based on role play, I just assigned everybody their stats and assigned everybody their... That is cool artwork, though, Chris. I assigned everybody their class and abilities based on how they would role play, but it was... The first session was just specifically designed to be introduce you to the world and introduce you to the problem which is facing the world, and we'll figure out, what kind of characters you are from there, so that it's more immersive, more role-playing, and less min-maxing, so that you have 17 first-level spells per day at first level.
That kind of reminds me of a kind of a interesting... I saw it in like a meme or something that gave me this idea for a campaign that basically you... Like, every player is a pre-established character, but they all have amnesia. So the DM has all the character sheets, and then, like, as they roleplay, they find out new things about themselves. Like, oh, I'm going to attempt to break down the door, and I say, roll a strength check. Okay, I roll my d20. It's a 6. I hope I have a good bonus. Your bonus is -2. Oh, shit, I'm like a wizard. And weird mechanical shit. And then, different... And even to go as far as, like, you go into the bar and you're like, oh, I'd like an ale. And the barman's like, oh, we don't serve your kind here. What do you mean? Fuck you, you dragonborn. Wait, I'm a dragonborn? And things like that. So I started preparing a one-shot like that because I thought it'd be fun. But so, Chris, tell us more about this system. What's its kind of unique draw? And do you recommend it?
This is a module... kind of
cool,
or kind of like a module maker. It's about an area. It's you can run it in like pretty much any D&D, although some editions are easier than others.
Right.
Easier to run it in like basic or like 5th edition than it is to run it in say 4th.
Okay, so it's D&D agnostic, but not quite system agnostic.
Yeah. But best with games where money equals experience kind of thing.
Makes sense.
But it's basically any library that's big enough usually has a door, sometimes hidden, sometimes not, in the back, where if you open that door, you enter an extra dimensional space called the Stygian Library. And you can go deeper and deeper into this place, and everywhere is lined with bookshelves.
We're going into the restricted section.
Yes. And you can always go deeper or try and find your way back. And there's all sorts of different rooms and creatures and things you can encounter. And anytime you go into the library, it's never the same twice. Like certain things you can... because you're always approaching it from a different angle. Sometimes you'll enter the lobby of one area and proceed down, and you'll encounter totally new things that you didn't see before. But it's got... I
like that, because it reminds me conceptually of, like, certain Zelda dungeons where it's, like, got kind of multiple ways to approach it. And that's something that I feel like you don't see much in tabletop games, because most of the time tabletop games are like, you go to the dungeon and it has an entrance or maybe a back door. It's kind of it. And occasionally a weird, like, tertiary entrance where I stick my head out the toilet and breathe acid at somebody. That's a particular reference that had to be there, I think. Chris, were you there for that one?
I was running that one.
Yeah, he was the DM.
Okay,
I was the DM.
I thought Dan was the DM for some reason.
No. Yeah. I was. I forget what I was doing, but
because we were all homebrew classes, so I was my blue mage.
I might have been playing. I made a variation of the Diablo 2 rogue class. Rogue, I think. Anyway, and
did
so
you hear the rogue class is coming back in Diablo 4?
I heard.
Because the rogue class actually was not in Diablo 2. It was only in Diablo 1. It was
Maybe
not in Diablo 2 or 3.
Yeah, Assassin was in 2, and it had the ability to, like, summon traps and different stuff, and so they would have, like, shadow magic or something. And I'm running around, and I've got all my homebrew stuff, and all of a sudden, Sean elongates his head and bites someone else's head off.
I did, because I was like, something was going wrong in the town, and like we were investigating houses, and I guess Chris must have been the DM, even though for some reason in my memory it was Dan. I can't figure. That's weird. But yeah, he's like, oh yeah, you come up to this house, and like the window's on the second floor, and one of my abilities from my homebrew class is that I have like stretchy limbs, like Luffy in One Piece, and I'm just like, I'm gonna extend my neck up like 10 feet so that I can see in the window. And I just scared the fuck out of this townsperson, and they were just like screaming their head off, and I'm just like, oh, I need you to be silent. And I just ate their head. I just like crit or something. I don't remember it. I just like one-shot them. That's fucking hilarious. Yeah.
I still need to... I would still like to finish running that at some point.
Yeah, let's get back to that. I guess I was thinking about my Blue Mage class and some of my other homebrew stuff the other day, and I would like to play some more of that character, because just for the wacky, stupid things I do, it would be awesome. But yeah. All right, so we didn't finish plugging ourselves, so let's finish that at least, and then we can get to the inane bullshit. So my name is Spamoman, as always, your host of Drink to the Past. You can find me on Twitter at SpamomanOSpam, and on TwoGuysPlayingZelda.com as Spamoman, as well as TGPZGaming.com as Spamoman, writing various opinion articles there. I'm thinking of one. I was kind of talking about one that I had an idea for last week, and I still haven't got around to writing it, but my latest piece up there is about Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, and what it kind of means for the gaming landscape as a whole, and its kind of take on mental health is very interesting to me, and it's a little bit of a shameless plug to get you to go play that game, because that game is just great. If you have not played Hellblade, then definitely go check it out. You can find Dan on Twitter at Rajwar, and apparently he doesn't have a webcomic yet.
Currently.
So yeah, eventually.
I might get that website back up. If you want a webcomic, if you look up at Whimsy Inc., she's a good friend of mine. She does a webcomic called Tess and Jack about a booze-drinking cowgirl and her robot friend go on hilarious hijinks. Yeah. You would love that webcomic.
All right, I might check that out. That sounds fun.
Inc.
Yeah, and of course, my good old compatriot, Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris. No, seriously, don't believe what you've seen in the last 2 hours. I don't actually suck at this game. You can find me on DriveThruRPG. I wrote House of Flowers and co-wrote 5 Cataclysms Core Rules Beta Edition. You can pick those up for pay what you want, and you should also pick up my co-author stuff while you're at it, because his stuff is good even though you have to pay money for it. We are also on itch.io, and honestly, itch.io I think would be the preferred platform to pick stuff up off of if you're going to pick stuff up. I think it's a slightly better platform, but pick it up wherever you want.
Yeah. So definitely check them out. I haven't done much with either. I've done a little bit with DriveThruRPG, because that's where I got Carbine Jungle, which we have one of the developers of the Carbine Jungle rule system on here at one point, plugging their new thing they call Mission Decks, which is actually a pretty cool thing. So check them out at Carbine Jungle on Twitter. The Mission Decks are kind of a cool thing. They make them for their system, Carbine Jungle, as well as 5th edition, and it's basically a deck of cards that can DM for you. So you draw the card to figure out kind of what happens next a little bit. That's kind of an oversimplification. Check out their Kickstarter, has all the information on that. They are kickstarted, so I believe they're available now. I would have to check to be sure. I'm not sure if they're can just be purchased yet or what, but definitely check them out. He's a cool guy on Twitter as well, so just give him a follow. He posts some cool memes and stuff. He's a good guy. Anywho, that brings us to the final segment of the podcast. Finally, after 2 hours and 12 minutes. What the fuck? A 90-minute runtime, my ass. But we are now here to the final stretch of the podcast, which is the part where we talk about inane bullshit until somebody says something really awkward. So, because we skipped the What You Playin' segment, why don't we go with that? Because I had something to say, and now I don't remember what game I was going to talk about. While Dan is here, actually, I could talk about Ghost of Tsushima a little bit. Because actually, my good buddy Dan here is my brother, and he bought me that for Christmas, and that was cool. So, Ghost of Tsushima, I've been playing as my the kids are asleep now game for a while now. I've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but this last week I completed the first act. I believe there's 3, but I'm not, like, I haven't beat the game yet or anything, so I'm not totally sure, but I beat the first act, and I kind of like how the way it works is basically it's a large open world. It's big, and so it feels very nicely explorable anyway, and then once you get through Act 1, it kind of opens up another big section of the world, and then I assume there's kind of 3 sections on the map, so I assume once I get through Act 2, it'll open up the 3rd section, but I haven't got there yet, so it's kind of hard to tell, but I assume that's what's kind of going on here. So I feel like that alleviates a little bit of the problem that some people had with Breath of the Wild. I didn't have this problem with Breath of the Wild, but some people have the problem that Breath of the Wild is a little too much like you can just go fight the final boss from the start of the game. All the other content is superfluous. So this is kind of like, it still has almost that openness of Breath of the Wild, but you have to like complete certain objectives to get the next part of the world and the next part of the world and then finally beat the game. So I think for people that had that gripe with Breath of the Wild, this would be a very good recommendation. And in general, this would be a very good recommendation because it's just really fun to just like chop the heads off of Mongols willy-nilly. Is Mongols a racial slur?
No, Mongols, I think, are like actually a group of people.
Yeah, that's just like the regular normal, like, you don't have to say Mongolian, right?
Mongolian, I think, is like a proper... You're thinking of Mongoloid, which is an entirely different thing.
Okay, because I got like kind of confused with that because I was like, they just call them Mongols in the game, and so I thought it was normal, and then I was explaining part of the game to my wife, and she was like, can you say Mongols? Is that a racial slur? And I was like, I never thought about it that way. I'm not sure. Am I a bad person?
Mongoloid might be, depending on the context. I think it may have also been a medical term at one point.
But it is actually really cool because it's like, it is based on the actual Mongol history, or Japanese history, technically, whichever way you want to look at it, of Khotan Khan invading the island of Tsushima in order to hopefully conquer Japan. And I don't think he did that because the hero in this story is the samurai guy. So I assume I'm going to beat him, but I'm not very well read on that part. And also to this day, Japan is not under Mongol control that I know of, but I also don't know much about Japanese
government. The Mongol Empire kind of rose suddenly and collapsed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting part of history, but
yeah, and so actually I'm learning a fairly good bit about it because one of the collectibles that you find is like just Mongolian artifacts, and it's like it gives you a description of every little random thing like Mongolian musical instrument or their battle plans and how they would go about writing tactical plans and stuff like that. And so it's really cool just kind of getting this little bit of historical kind of background on the game that I'm playing as well. And also, now that I've beat that first act, this is like the first time in a long time that I've like been completing all of the side quests and stuff and side content that I can while I'm playing the game. Because I've had a decent good few games where I like it so well that I want it to keep going, so I just go back and do the side content after I've beaten the main story and stuff like that. But like, I don't remember the last time other than Final Fantasy VII Remake last year, I don't remember the last time that I like sat down and like just went like every single side quest out, because now that I've beat that first chapter, I'm just going around the island like collecting collectibles, finding side quests, doing the side quests, because the side quests are like very well constructed from a gameplay perspective, and from a story perspective as well, because they're also another little thing that give you a little kind of hint into the way Japanese folklore came about at the time and things like that. Because like you'll have like bandit, it'll end up that bandits are raiding camps at night, but like the people will like get superstitious about it and be like, oh, people are disappearing in this forest at night, it must be spirits, or the stuff like that. And somebody mentioned the kappa, which is a Japanese monster in folklore, which I have ironically heard of because it was supposed to like foretell earthquakes or something. And I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that I learned on River Monsters, which is an interesting fishing show with Jeremy Wade as this biologist that goes fishing and checks out interesting facts about these monsters of legend and tries to discern the actual origin of the monsters of legend. And he thinks the kappa was actually a large catfish native to Japan that, because of it's just kind of more in tune to the tremors in the earth, would like react to earthquakes much sooner than a human would feel them. And that, so I thought this was just cool to see the every little bit of this game is just like just bursting with lore, and it's all grounded in reality. It's so cool. Plus there's lots of blood and death. What you playing, Dan?
So currently I'm playing Minecraft. I'm working on different things. One of these days I would like to get a fully functional redstone airship going that will just be able to fly forward, and it's complicated to work it out. I've got it technically functional, but it would currently work on timings that short version it's not practical. But I want to have a full shaped airship actually fly itself with all the appropriate timings. And I think it is possible, so I am continuing to work on that. But also I'm just doing random things like planting and shaping trees in order to make my portal look like it's overgrown in the nether. But cool. What you were talking about kind of reminded me of the archaeology portion of World of Warcraft, where in the Cataclysm expansion you can go to archaeological dig sites and retrieve artifacts, and some of them will give you in-game bonuses. Like that's how my character learned to turn himself into a dragon and fly around. But it also goes into the lore of the universe a lot more, and it allows you to see the past and what happened, tens of thousands of years before and whatnot, through exploring the different lore of these different cultures through, well, essentially complete side quests. Like the whole archaeology thing is a side quest to World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sounds neat. I remember a little bit about when they introduced archaeology, but World of Warcraft for me was never a game I really got into much of the lore. I remember I mostly played it because everybody I knew was playing it, and I was just like, I'll be included. Okay, I'm gonna kill stuff.
Yeah,
I'm gonna kill stuff as good as I can.
Were Stabgar, Slashgar, Flamegar, and later he made a Stabgar Ina. And I think the description in our guild for who this character was it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a female version of Stabgar.
Yeah, I also had later on when they made Undead able to play Hunter class, I made Shotgar.
Shotgar.
I had Stabgar, Slashgar, Shotgar, and of course my warrior, formerly Jack. Just to break the pattern.
Yeah.
Actually, formerly Jack was my first character, and then I just never leveled him up for a long time because at the time that I made him, I really didn't understand the mechanics of tanking and DPS and all that, and I decided I just really wanted to just like focus on smashing and killing shit and dealing damage. And then when they introduced the dungeon queue finder thing, like you could just like push a button and find a group automatically online with like basically matchmaking for co-op, and it was cool. I was like, hey, I could do that to level up my warrior as long as I've got him, and he's already like a little bit spec'd into doing tank stuff, so I could figure that out. And then I actually ended up having a crap load of fun after I kind of understood the mechanics of it. But still, it was a game that I really only kind of ever cared about. It was like I had fun with it, but if it wasn't for other people playing the game with me, I really would never have got into WoW at all.
Oh, yeah.
I remember I was really pissed when everybody started playing WoW, because that was like our group that played Dungeons and Dragons online, and they abandoned me. And I was like, I don't want to play WoW. We already have a good MMO.
They abandoned me too. I was just ready to start raiding, and they're like, oh, and now we're playing a new game now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Chris, what you playing this week?
Other than this game, which is Going Under, which I'm playing like the true roguelike mode of the game, which is significantly harder, as you can see, than the main storyline of the game. I've been playing Minecraft, and I've been playing a lot of Dota 2.
Oh yeah, actually, I played my first game of a couple of games of Dota 2 with you, actually, since the last time we had a podcast. And that was all right. That was interesting. It reminds me a bit of League, but I love that you can just have all the characters instead of buggering around with all this microtransaction bullshit. I'm like...
Yeah, so Dota 2 is definitely, I think, in some ways it's an easier game to get into than League, in that you have every character unlocked from the start. You never have to like unlock the game as you play it.
The only little bit of problem with that is that it's like a little bit overwhelming for a new player to try and read through all these characters to be like, does this ability combination sound interesting? Does this sound like my play style? Does it sound easy to play? So it's got its bit of hiccups.
Into too.
Yeah.
There's a much higher learning curve for Dota 2 than there is for League.
That's kind of my problem with competitive Pokemon, where you have all of these options, and someone somewhere will have done math and have figured out the exact perfect way to build their team and to train them, level them up, give them different move sets. And if you're just the casual player, you flatly will not be competitive at that game. You will lose almost the entire time.
Yeah, I used to do a little bit of online Pokemon in X and Y online. I would go online and do triple battles, and it was really cool because I came up with two teams that were actually pretty good, surprisingly, because one of them was 6 water Pokemon and one of them was 6 fire Pokemon. And ordinarily in a team of, especially in triple battles, you really need to diversify your kind of Pokemon. But in these two teams, I had a very diverse move pool, so I could be effective in any situation. But after a certain after I killed your 1 or 2 Pokemon that were good against water types, I would just tank the hell out of everything else you tried to throw at me. So it was okay, right? So in an interesting way, it kind of worked. But then I remember when Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire came out, I kind of transferred my Pokemon up to this game because it was still Gen 6, but it was now the new part. It was like Gen 6.5 basically. So it's still using the Gen 6 engine is still using Mega Evolution as the big mechanic at the time, and I'm like, all right. But the big thing that it changed though was that one of my things that I did was, to an extent, I controlled the weather with Mega Charizard and with actually no, I didn't do anything with my water team, but one of the problems that they did add with this game was that in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you had the primal version of Kyogre and Groudon, which had like weather effects like sunny day or rainy, whatever the rain one was called, but it was automatic as soon as the Pokemon was out in its primal form. And it was like better than regular weather, so that regular weather moves couldn't affect it at all. And it would literally make, like, if they throw out a Kyogre with the super rain effect, fire moves don't work. And if they throw out a Groudon with the super sunny day effect, water moves don't work. They literally do nothing. And it totally broke the meta, because you pretty much had to have these two Pokemon as well as a Mega Rayquaza in order to just neutralize all weather effects, including those giant super weather effects. That was the only way to neutralize the super weather effects, was with Mega Rayquaza. So you literally had to run all three of these on your team or you were fucked.
Yeah.
It super pissed me off, because I did pretty good. I would win like, probably 4 out of 5 games, roughly, which is pretty decent for just online randos. Every now and then I would get really, really hard teams that obviously these were those competitive kind of players, but
yeah,
then they were just like, you don't have these 3 Pokemon on your team, you die. That's it.
Yeah.
Beer.
Kind of all I want from a Pokemon game is for every Pokemon, at least fully evolved, and maybe even limited exceptions where you have like Pikachu holding the light orb can function as
or stuff with Eviolite and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But like if you had every Pokemon theoretically balanced against one another, it would kind of bring the game back to what it was in the 90s, where, you have to care about a type advantage. You have to work at developing a well-rounded spread, rather than just, this is the most optimized thing to do it or you lose.
Yeah, because that's kind of how because although there's a little bit of an excuse for them that I read in a Game Informer article, actually was referring to the Pokemon card game, but I think it applies to a lesser extent, but it still applies to the Pokemon main games. That basically one of the developers of the card game was interviewed by Game Informer, and they noticed that there is a big difference in Pokemon cards printed now as opposed to printed like first edition. Like first edition Charizard is worth a shitload of money, but it sucks compared to normal cards now. Like it is unplayably bad by today's Pokemon TCG standards. So
I made this complaint with your Typhlosion deck, because I was
so,
like,
yeah,
that is just mathematically,
and now my Typhlosion deck is like nothing because I have my Mega Charizard. But the point of the story is, in this interview, he was basically like, the Game Informer guy was like, hey, power creep is a thing. What's up with that? And he said, basically, in order to keep a card game like this relevant, you have to either introduce power creep or make it ridiculously complicated. And Magic has somehow managed to do both, because every fucking edition of Magic adds 2 or 3 new mechanics that go away and never come back again. And it's annoying as hell. And I would almost at that point rather just have like more powerful cards, right? And
Magic has avoided it to some extent.
Yeah.
With the standard format, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sometimes, to my frustration, they do print a lot of cards that are like intentionally bad so that they don't disrupt the standard environment. But then if you're drafting them, so you're cracking the packs and you're building your deck on the spot from random card assignments, you'll still get all of the key things. Sometimes I do find it especially frustrating that they're like, well, here's Ravenous Chupacabra, costs 4, and it's a 2/2 creature that kills a creature when it enters. Or you could also get a more common card that is just kill a creature for 4 mana. Same cost, it's just you don't get a creature with Impale. It's just a one-off kill spell. But that way, in order to fill the draft environment with kill spells to remove your opponent's dangerous threats, they have Impale. But in the standard environment, they have Ravenous Chupacabra, and then every now and again you get something that's a little bit off the wall and way more powerful than I think they even realize sometimes.
Pure Steel Paladin.
Well, yeah.
No, he wasn't the one that was banned, I guess. Was Stoneforge Mystic was the one that
banned.
Right.
Because
but
the problem with Stoneforge Mystic is there was a 5 mana cost equipment called Batterskull that just generated, I think, a 4/4 with like Death Touch and Lifelink. And then when it died, you could pay 3 and return this to your hand, and then recast it for 5. So that should be that should be 8 mana in total in order to recast it. Well, Stoneforge Mystic said you can pay 2 mana and tap it to put an equipment into play, so you could pay 2 instead of the 5. And also, when it entered play, you would fetch an equipment from your deck, so you could fetch Batterskull, and just it improved the reliability of that deck so hard that it was just virtually insurmountable. I have plenty of complaints about that. But yeah, power creep, sometimes it's a thing, and other times I like it when they print cards that are just different enough that there is a reason to consider them, even if it's not necessarily the most advantageous thing.
Yeah.
But
I like trained.
Do you?
I like totals.
Do you? Are you opening another beer? Oh no, it was Dan. Ginger ale. That's not quite beer.
Yeah, I have the root beer in bottles over there just in case I would have to crack any to keep up with you.
Right.
You drink a lot of beer, laddie.
I mean, technically, I've only drunk like 1 beer so far, and not quite. I'm almost finished. So I guess we gotta cut this podcast off soon.
At some
But
point.
none of us
I'll try
is
to
saying
say
anything
something awkward.
awkward. We both
Well,
said
this guy-
awkward at the same time. Is that awkward?
You guys haven't even seen the